first main topic for the episode. For this main topic, we're just going to talk about my most anticipated teams for the upcoming NWSL season. This is going to be in order all the way from top to bottom, and I'll just give I'll go into a little bit more depth for my top three teams. With the rest of them, I'll just give some little footnotes. But I think this would be more fun if maybe we started out with we'll go with three. My third most anticipated, my second most anticipated, then my first most anticipated, and then I'll go through 4 through 10 in that order, just so that I don't have to give you guys short cliff notes, and then I just like doing that better. Okay, so my third most anticipated team for the upcoming NWSL season is going to be, drumroll please, OL Reign. So in the offseason, they added a ton of midfield and forward depth. Just in the forward line alone, they've got Ciara King, which is really nice. They got Sophia Huerta. They got Bethany Balser. They've got a ton of names coming into their roster, and I think they're going to be scoring a ton of goals this season. And plus, not to mention that they're going to be adding a couple pieces from Olympic Lyonnais, allegedly. That seems to be like a pretty high likelihood from the news. From the news articles I've been reading and hearing about, it sounds like if they add Jennifer Morotzen, I always pronounce her name wrong. I can never get that right. But if they add her and Sarah Buhati or Wendy Renard, I believe they're getting 2 out of the 3 of them. It sounds like it's going to be Sarah Buhati and Jennifer. But if they add those, then that's just even more reason to be excited, because they're going to have a world-class goalkeeper, which they definitely needed, and also a world-class midfielder, which, hey, that only adds to the depth even more. To me, since they signed Karen Bardsley on loan from Manchester City, I wouldn't be surprised if the 2 players from Olympic Lyonnais who came over to OL Reign ended up being Jennifer Morotzen and Wendy Renard, because then at that point, what would they need Sarah Buhati for? Not that Karen Bardsley is better, but it would make more sense to add a little bit more depth and defense with Wendy Renard. So really, really interesting stuff, and I can't wait to see what the OL Reign do with that. Moving into my second most anticipated team of the NWSL season, it's going to be, we'll do a little drum roll again, please, the Washington Spirit. The Washington Spirit, I think, and from what a lot of journalists have been saying, they kind of agree with me on this, they are probably going to be the second best team going into this NWSL season. Their defense is going to be locked down. It's going to have Aubrey Bledsoe in goal. It's going to have Kelly O'Hara and Emily Sonnet, at least for most of the season, because of the Olympics going down. But then again, who knows if Emily Sonnet will be on the Olympic roster? That remains to be seen. But hypothetically, if she does stick around, that certainly helps their defensive line a lot. Emily Sonnet really excels in NWSL play, and Washington Spirit could sure use her help this summer. And then plus, they just have really solid players all the way up and down the pitch. They drafted Trinity Rodman. She's going to be a really exciting player with a ton of talent. They've got Ashley Hatch up there. They've also got Ashley Sanchez, so their forward line is going to be very, very strong. In the midfield, they've got Andy Sullivan, who's kind of drifted in and out of the U.S. Women's National Team roster over the years. So I'm really excited to see what the Washington Spirit do, especially with their new pieces while they have them. And it'll be super, super interesting to see some of the young players like Trinity Rodman and some of the vets like Kelly O'Hara and Emily Sonnet all meld together. So keep your eyes peeled for that one, ladies and gentlemen. And now, my number one most excited team is going to be, we'll do a drum roll for this one too, for consistency's sake, the Chicago Red Stars. I think this is the Chicago Red Stars' year to win the championship. They have gotten so close. For the last 5 or 6 years, they've gotten to the semis and lost. They've gotten to the finals and lost. They're starting to put all the pieces in place in order to finally secure a championship. They're investing both on the field and they're investing off the field in their new ownership group. What does the roster shape up so far? So the biggest names that I'm seeing in this roster: Alyssa Nair in goal, the best keeper in the country without a doubt, and probably one of the best in the world. Then you've got Casey Kruger and Tina Davidson holding down your back line. Along with Bianca St. George, you've got 3 international solid players in your back line, and then a stud goalkeeper. And then in the midfield, you've got Julie Ertz, who's a top 10 player in the world, playing alongside Morgan Gautreau and Vanessa DiBernardo. And then in the forward line, you've got Mallory Pugh, which this is the question mark here, because crossing fingers, if she can remain healthy, she will be such a big help to the Chicago Red Stars going forward, because she could be the little push that they need in their forward line to get over the top. And then plus a partnership up top with Kaylee Owat. She's been getting better and better as time has gone on, and the 2 of them together would be absolutely deadly. So I mark my words now, and I've put this in hot takes on TikTok, but I think this is going to be the Chicago Red Stars' year to win the championship. So cross my fingers for them, and I hope I'm right. let me get into the remaining 4 through 10 anticipated teams for the upcoming NWSL season. So, my fourth most anticipated team of the season is going to be the Houston Dash. The Houston Dash had a really, really, really exciting 2020, winning the Challenge Cup and performing pretty solid in the fall series. I'm curious to see how they're going to build off of that going forward. I know that Christy Mewis might be in the U.S. Women's National Team roster this summer. There's a chance. She's been playing really, really well and really consistently. So, how would the Houston Dash cope without her? Time will tell. And then also Rachel Daly too. I don't know if she'll be over in the Olympics for the summer roster. I'm sure she will be. So I'm interested to see how the Houston Dash are going to cope without those two players if they do play in the Olympics. It's just going to be super, super interesting. And I hope the Houston Dash succeeded because up until this point, they weren't really a very exciting team. And now this gives us as NWSL fans a wild card to kind of look forward to. So I'm really excited to see them. My fifth most anticipated team for the upcoming season is going to be the KC NWSL. I'm just going to call them Kansas City from now on because it gets really confusing just saying KC NWSL. That blows my mind they didn't come up with the team name. But they're a new franchise with a ton of depth. They are the former Utah Royals, hence they've inherited most of the roster and added a few pieces. So I think they were already an okay team going forward. And with some of the moves that they made, especially in the draft, I'm curious to see how that's going to progress even more. So keeping my eyes open for KC NWSL. Moving next into this is my sixth most anticipated team for the upcoming NWSL season is going to be Sky Blue. I'm starting to get into the territory 6 through 10 where I'm like not super excited for what these teams are going to do. Sky Blue is an exciting up and coming team. I'm curious to see because they didn't inherit, they gained a ton of allocation money throughout the draft. Like I think they made like a couple $100,000 in that draft, and I'm curious to see how they're gonna put it to use. I haven't seen I haven't seen them make like a ton of crazy moves to make me think they're like contenders this year. I think there's a good chance they're gonna make the playoffs, but do I think they'll win the title? Probably not. So time will tell with Sky Blue. I just think there's more exciting teams up and coming this NWSL season. Moving on next is going to be North Carolina, the seventh most anticipated team. They've lost a ton of pieces in the offseason, losing Abby Dahlkemper, Crystal Dunn, and Sam Mewis, who all three you could argue are top 20 players in the world, and you lose all three of them, all in different spots on the field. That sucks. I Don't get me wrong, you still got Jessica McDonald, J-Mac, you've got Dabinia in the midfield, who lights it up in the NWSL, and you've got Lynn Williams, who's been top 5 in scoring or assists for like the past 5 NWSL seasons. Little caveat to that, Dabinia and Lynn Williams might be going overseas to play in the Olympics, and so North Carolina Courage is just going to be left with Jessica McDonald leading their front line, which she's amazing, but she probably can't carry the team by herself. So I don't think North Carolina is going to have a great season ahead of them. Do I think they'll make the playoffs? Probably. Do I think they're going to do very great beyond that? No, probably not. So for that reason, I'm not really too pumped for the North Carolina Courage for this upcoming season. Moving on next into, I'm losing count in my head here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 8 on my most anticipated list is going to be the Orlando Pride. The Orlando Pride to me has been the biggest mystery since like NWSL inception. The reason being is because this team looks crazy good on paper. You've got Ashlyn Harrison goal. You got Allie Krieger anchoring down your defensive line. You've got Alex Morgan, one of the best strikers in the world, leading your front line. You've got Marta, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And for some reason, they just can't win. They just don't ever perform very well in the NWSL season. I mean, they've taken bottom 3 like the last 3 years, and they didn't have a very good showing at either the Challenge Cup or the Fall Series. So I don't think they're going to have another great year, especially with the Olympics coming up this summer. I have no reason to think that they're going to do great or outstanding, and I just don't see it getting any better. So I expect another down year from the Orlando Pride. I could be wrong. The NWSL is full of surprises. Moving into my least anticipated team in the upcoming NWSL season, this is number 9. If you haven't guessed it yet, it is Racing Louisville. Racing Louisville, I don't think are going to be good at all this year. I think there's a decent chance they might finish last. They have made a ton of gambles, especially in the expansion draft, that just have not paid off. Caitlin Ford's gone elsewhere. Tobin Heath and Kristen Press are still over at Man United, which makes sense, right? But I just don't. None of their gambles have panned out very well, like at all. It's amazing. They took a ton of risks, which I admire the bravery in the franchise in order to do that. And who knows if Tobin, Heath, and Kristen Press want to come back to the NWSL and they want to play for Racing Louisville, or if they can just sell the rights for a ton of money, that's a win for Racing Louisville. But so far, none of their gambles have paid off, and we're not going to see any dividends from their gambles this upcoming season. So I expect Racing Louisville to not be a really good team coming out of the gate. So who knows? Like I said, NWSL is full of surprises, so I could very well be wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think. What are your most anticipated teams for the upcoming NWSL season? Feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know what you think.